Well, I think we can get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Jessica, I'm DMC's marketing manager. I'll be your host today. But today we're going to learn how to maximize the benefits from the Microsoft 365 tools that you already own. This will be a 60-minute presentation. And before we get started, we just wanted to ask you to, if you have questions along the way, you can go ahead and put those in the Q&A feature. And we'll also have time for questions at the end of the presentation. So kicking us off will be Rick Reitz, our Director of Consulting Services. He's a member of DMC's Digital Workplace Solutions team, who will be all of our presenters today. And he's going to share some background on DMC and Microsoft 365.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Thanks everybody for joining us this morning. As Jessica said, we've probably got about 45 minutes of content, and we'll leave. We've got some room to answer some questions, so please go ahead, as Jessica said, and thread those. And all right, so today's agenda. Basically, we're going to give you a very quick overview of DMC, what we do, but then we're going to dig into the different Microsoft 365 tools. Most of you probably own these and may not even know it. There's a couple additional tool add-ons like Power BI, but Jimmy will go into some of the licensing after we finish giving you an overview and demonstration of some of these Office 365, Microsoft 365 tools. And then, as I said, Q&A, we'll open it up at the end, but please feel free to thread some questions as we go along. All right, so just real quick about DMC. We've been around a while, since 1996. We've got about 185 employees and growing. We've got our headquarters is in Chicago. We've got about 90 people here, and then the rest of our folks are spread across 8 other offices across the country. Kind of the roots of the company are in factory automation solutions, so we have a lot of manufacturing clients, but our team here is the Digital Workplace Solutions team, and we work with clients across a variety of different industries. Of course, we do some manufacturing, but we're not limited to just manufacturing clients. As far as the kinds of solutions that our team provides, we do a lot of work with intranets and extranets. So if you're trying to put up a platform to communicate with your employees, intranets are on the SharePoint platform are a great way to go. We also set up extranets, usually with SharePoint as the foundation for that. And that's for communicating with partners and other third parties, inviting them to collaborate with you and your teams. We do a lot of work with business process automation. Some may know that as robotic process automation. We do a lot with approval workflows and really to structure processes. Dashboards, reports, and analytics, that's a lot of Power BI stuff. So building reports and dashboards, being able to visualize data. We build document management solutions, usually SharePoint as the back end for that. Customer relationship management, Microsoft Dynamics 365 for sales. Then we provide training around all of these different types of solutions, as well as licensing for the Microsoft stack of technologies. We also do a lot of custom app development. So when these platforms don't quite do everything that you need them to do, if you need to get one system to talk to another system, we've got a lot of custom app developers on our teams. We can build, without any platform behind it, some from scratch web applications, desktop applications, mobile applications. We can integrate applications with various Microsoft AI and bots and machine learning technologies as well. We've been a gold partner for 13 years and several gold competencies, and these all come into play with the technologies that we're going to talk about today. So if your organization's using Azure, Dynamics 365, we also do some AWS, the Office 365 suite, SharePoint, the Power Platform, which is going to be a big focus today, and then some of the custom development technologies as well, doing work with SQL Server, .NET, Python, and React. So that's a quick overview about DMC and some of the things that we do for our clients. I'm going to hand it over to Anjali now, and she's going to talk with you a little bit about SharePoint and what that can do.
Thanks, Rick. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So My name is Anjali Baradwa. So I am a computer engineer and I work at DMC. I've been here about 10 years, and some of the different roles that I play at DMC is for project management, business analysis. I do a lot of Office 365 configuration and training, and I'm also the co-chair of Chicago WIT, so the Women in Technology. So I want to talk to you about a couple of the platforms. So starting with SharePoint. So SharePoint is actually one of my favorite tools in the Microsoft stack because there are so many possibilities. While it's widely known for document management, it can be used for a number of other features as well. So with document management, it allows users to collaborate on a document, keep an audit trail of version history so you always know what the most recent version is, tag, filter, and sort documents so you can find what you're looking for quicker. With an intranet and extranet, it allows you to communicate top-down messages to your employees about things that are important to your organization. It could be fun things like an upcoming company party, new babies, or even necessary things like local COVID updates. The same goes for an extranet, but just communication with selected contacts that is external to your organization. Could be customers, could be vendors. Workflow, while we'll get more into detail with Power Automate, which is the brains behind workflow, SharePoint is a great selection for the front end of a workflow. A common simple one we've been doing quite a bit of recently is business card requests. When someone submits a request, it gets routed to the marketing representative, processes in the request, and then lets the requester know that it's been completed. Very simple standard workflow. SharePoint can be a great front end tool for that. Department applications, just like the business cards, you can create features for other departments like submitting an IT ticket, new employee workflows, proposal generation, approval workflows, and much more. So there's a lot of possibilities within each department. So with all of these features, you can imagine that SharePoint is a top selection for managing projects. You have the ability to keep all of your information about it together. You can build in some custom dashboards. You can bring in third-party information as well and have a one-stop shop for management of a department. The next bullet, wikis and SOPs. So we use these quite often. SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedures, and SharePoint's a great way to manage this. It's a great tool for employees to find the policies or procedures independently without having to ask around or search through a large handbook to find out, how do I submit an expense report? And finally, search. Search could be a reason all by itself to implement SharePoint. It'll search through all the words and all the titles of all the content that you've headed within seconds and allows you to find what you're looking for faster. So SharePoint, really the idea behind it is efficiency. So let's talk about a couple of pros and cons for SharePoint. So pros, like I said, there's just so many unlimited possibilities. And so it can make it a really cool tool to do a whole bunch of different things. There are very flexible permission settings. So if you have a group of people that should access some content, but not all content, you have the ability to control permissions on a wide variety of ranges, from a site to a library to actually an independent file can have different permissions than the file sitting in the same and another file sitting in the same library. You also have the ability to do configurable navigation for ease of searchability. I think this is a key point that makes SharePoint a really great tool, is that instead of kind of navigating through a file share, you can kind of clue users into, here's where you should be clicking if you're looking for something in the marketing department. Here's where you should be clicking if you're looking for something in IT. And so by having that navigation available for people to guide your users, that really can be a key benefit. It's a resource for internal users, like we talked about, for policies and procedures. How do you find documents from other departments? It's a great resource tool. The communication portal, again, that top-down messaging. And really, there's some simple out-of-the-box forms that you can create if you have like a new, I want to add employee preferences. So let's create a simple form that allows people to do that. So there's some out-of-the-box things that come with SharePoint that are very, very simple. Just to touch base on the cons, so there is pre-planning required. If you just put SharePoint out there and say, okay, users, go use it, it's really not going to be as effective. So it does require some pre-planning for the best implementation. And along those same lines, some configuration and training is necessary as well. Training doesn't have to be large, maybe 15, 30 minutes to get some users, basics on how to upload a document, how to look at version history, but it really can go a long way. There also is some users who just really don't like the web interface. They prefer File Explorer, and there are ways to get around that. So you can use SharePoint and still have a File Explorer view, but it is just something to be aware of if you're deciding to look at SharePoint for your organization. So I'm going to show you a quick example of a SharePoint implementation so we can kind of see what one might look like. So here's a longtime client that I've been doing business with that allows me to show their SharePoint site. So this is their intranet. So when you first log in, you have the top messaging of what do they want you to know. It could be, important things like governing documents, our core values, and the necessary things like the COVID policy. What are some links and maybe some other third-party software we use, and who are the contacts that you might want to touch base with in case you have a question about something. So you can see that if you click on one of the links, it can take you to some other information that is important for your employees to know. In addition to using this as an intranet, they also do use this as for project management. So each of their customers, you can see I've created a test customer here. We can have information about our customers. What are the different projects that we've been working on them for? What are the different proposals that we've launched for them? And then even in more detail, go into the actual project itself. So here are some where it's bringing in information from third-party systems like QuickBooks or custom homegrown ERP systems. Who's in charge of the team? What are the different documents for this particular? Project? And then have all that information be available to you at the tip of your fingers. Similarly, we talked a little bit about the fact that you could use it as an intranet. So here at DMC, we actually talk about some fun stuff that's happening too. So you can see, what are some things that you might want to know about that's happening. Here are some presentations that you might have missed. And even some, here's some top-down messaging. So what are these different terms that we use within DMC? And here's some health and benefit stuff. So you can see there's a lot of different options for being able to pass information in between you, the top management, and your employees. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Mike to talk about Power BI.
You're muted, Mike.
I am muted, which is good because all I was saying was that I was having a hard time sharing my screen. My name is Michael Dannemiller. I'm going to be talking to you today about Power BI and what it can offer you and what how you can use it within your organization. But before we get too far into this today, I figured I'll do a quick introduction to myself. As I mentioned, my name is Michael Dannemiller. I've been working at DMC for about 7 years. Relevant to today's conversation in terms of my responsibilities is that I work on all of our Power BI projects here at DMC. I have a variety of other responsibilities with SharePoint and Dynamics 365 and Power Automate, but given that we're talking about Power BI, it's relevant to know that I work on all of our Power BI projects here. Starting at a high level, Power BI is a business intelligence platform, and it's situated within what's called the Power Platform, which we'll talk about each of the elements with the exception of Power Virtual Agents today. Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. While Power Apps are designed to give you a light application experience and Power Automate is designed to automate sort of smaller tasks, Power BI is designed to take any information that's generated by those apps or by the workflows and display it to the end users. So it is a part of the larger ecosystem of Microsoft's Power Platform. But Power BI by itself is a business intelligence platform. So you're going to be most familiar with business intelligence in the terms of reports, dashboards, just general BI. The idea of Power Platform is to be something that is easy for everyone to use. And what I mean by that is it should be able to connect to your data where it is. In the vast majority of cases, we're able to connect directly to open data sources, whether those are on-premise, in the cloud. Even quite a few third-party applications provide APIs and connectors to make use of their data. And it's designed to be used by everyone. So in typical BI systems, you might need a business analyst or even a developer to create reports and dashboards, but Power BI is designed to be used by end users. It's designed to be as easy as possible to use. Users who are familiar with Excel will have no trouble picking up Power BI whatsoever. And it is available on all the platforms that you might need. It's available on your PC in both desktop and web form, and it's also available on your phone as well as tablets, so you can view the applications there. I know Rick likes to tell us, likes to tell everyone he does, when he wakes up in the morning, sometimes just flips open his phone and checks the Power BI dashboards for the day to see kind of where things are at. So the dashboards themselves can be as real time as you'd like them to be. This is an example of a manufacturing dashboard, which is in true real time. There's Azure services which are powering this report, but more commonly, it's oftentimes that whenever we open the report, we want to refresh it, or we want to refresh it maybe once a day, maybe twice a day, or on a scheduled basis like that. So in that way, we can make this as live as you need it to be. Also, we have natural language query and AI insights. So what this means is, and you can see from the demonstration here, is you can actually ask real questions of your data. So please show me total global sales by genre, or show me total new opportunities by month. And it'll give you a visual that you can decide whether or not it's useful to you. And the AI insights are developed by Microsoft and give you sort of a starting point to say, hey, you might want to take a look at this. You might want to take a look at exceptionally high sales in a particular area. There are over 250 custom visuals. So in addition to, your bar charts and your column charts and your tables, there's a wide variety of custom visuals. I think the updated number is over 300 plus. And if there's something that isn't representative of what you actually need to do, there is a custom development platform that Microsoft does utilize in order to allow for a true custom development on this platform. And it is also, lastly, integrated with Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint, and Teams. So you can embed Power BI reports directly into PowerPoint as well as Excel. More useful, I think, is putting them directly in SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. So you can make it available to, for example, a project management team who might need to take a look at some updated hourly numbers, or your delta towards your budget, or that sort of thing. So that's kind of the high level view of Power BI. I wanted to show a very quick example of what Power BI looks like. So I'm going to pull up a blank Power BI sheet here. This is what Power BI looks like when you first open it. And the first thing we need to get data. So I'm going to click this button, and it's going to load up all of our data sources. And what you can see here is, in addition to what you would probably normally expect, Excel workbooks, text, XML files, PDFs, we can also connect to most databases, SQL Server, Oracle, and this list goes on. There's many data sources, and they're being added all the time. So these are all third-party connectors that have been created by the developers of those tools. So you can usually connect directly to one of those, but if there's an exposed backend with a database or whatnot, you are able to connect directly to those as well. So once you bring in your data, you have the ability to make changes to your data. So oftentimes when we pull in data, it's not in a form that we really can use for our tools. So for example, this is what the product data for our sample data set looks like when it first comes in. You'll notice that there's product and also the segment that are in the same field. This category needs to be filled down. All of these things are make it so we can't use this data in an Excel form. We can then extract things, so we can pull everything before and after this bar. So for example, we pull everything before the bar, and then we pull everything after the bar. We want to remove the original column because now it's duplicate data, rename everything, and then fill down this category so that we can have everything in a format that we can use in Power BI. And what the nice thing here, and the true benefit, is that this is done every time we refresh the data. So if you're refreshing the data once a day, or even many times per day, this is happening every single time. So if it's someone's job with your organization to maybe pull down a few reports, do a little bit of chopping and changing to the data so that it's accurate, and then putting it into an Excel report, and they have to do that once a day, once a month, once a week. This is essentially replacing that work so they can focus on analyzing the data rather than just the brute force of copying data across. So Power BI itself, once you get your visualizations created, we can look at reports and dashboards that look similar to this. So this is a sample data set that we often use. And the nice thing is, even though we're seeing some data by country, growth by manufacturer, this is kind of a market share, and this is revenue by year and manufacturer. Everything allows you to cross filter. So if I select North America, for example, we'll see that all of these visuals have been filtered by just North American data so that we can look at specific information. And then, we can go to different countries if you have them, or for example, different manufacturers. If you're looking at a manufacturer specifically, we can look at data there. Then if you were to find something that was interesting, like let's say you saw an uptick in sales in a given year. We can go to a more detailed view. So this is showing the same data, but just in a different way and with a lot more detail. In addition to showing a time set year by year, we also have some very detailed data in terms of product level data. So these are the categories. And if I drill down one level, I can see the segments within each of these categories. And even further than that, I can see the individual products. And when I select anything on this page, again, so if I want to go to Australia, for example, everything is filtered by Australia, including the detailed data that we want to dig into, as well as this data here. So we maybe don't want to see it just by 2020. We want to dig in a little bit deeper on the month level. So we can actually just drill down. We can drill down into 2020 and see it by quarter. We can go down an entire level to see it month by month. And now we have month by month data in Power BI. And the idea is that you can dig into this data. You can save a bookmark of this, so you can kind of save your filter state, send it off to somebody, and they can say, oh, you know, there's a big jump in sales in September. So maybe you send that to the marketing team and ask, hey, based on your knowledge, was anything going on in September? Were you running a marketing campaign? Maybe we take a look at some other information to determine whether or not there was a protracted management effort to push sales of a particular product in that area. To find out more information, they can then view this report, maybe add their own data, maybe drill down to find more information, and then send it back and kind of keep that sort of virtuous cycle open. So that's how we use Power BI within an organization to kind of utilize the data that's generated by other applications. To talk a little bit about automating some of those processes, I'm going to pass it off to Jamie.
Thank you, Mike. Second here. Okay, am I sharing the right screen? I hope so.
Yes.
It looks like it, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
yes. Excellent. Once again, thank you, Mike. My name is Jamie Handelman, and I'm going to be talking to you today about Power Automate. So just a little bit of background about me. I'm also on our digital workplace solutions, and I've been at DMC for about 3.5 years. I graduated from Tulane University down in New Orleans, and my expertise is really within Microsoft's Power Platform as well as SharePoint. So Power Automate, which is formerly known as Microsoft Flow, if you hear those two terms, they are used interchangeably, is a workflow tool that provides the ability to create very powerful workflows. It is the next generation of SharePoint Designer workflows, as SharePoint Designer is becoming obsolete. So one of the largest advantages of using Power Automate is that it's not just SharePoint centric. It allows users to perform actions and integrate data across many cloud and on-premise systems. You can construct these workflows. You can either construct very simple workflows in just minutes, going all the way up to extremely complicated workflows that might take a little bit more time to build. So workflows in general help standardize, manage, or control a business task. They can automate repetitive tasks, and they chain steps together to essentially save you time and scale automation across your organization. So just going through some of the pros and cons of Power Automate. As I mentioned before, Power Automate will save you time. Workflows in general save time. They minimize organizations' repetitive, manual, and time-consuming tasks to create more time for your teams to drive your business. Workflows increase productivity. They increase the consistency of output, increase the robustness of processes or the product, reduce human efforts, streamline everyday tasks, and connect to a variety of sources, as I've mentioned. The approval emails also show, or the approvals also show directly in your email or in Teams, which I'm going to show you an example of later. And although Power Automate has many pros, of course, with any product, there are a few cons. Licensing for Power Automate can be a little bit difficult to control. And although that it is a no-code platform using point-and-click logic, you do need some level of coding or technical expertise in order to create the most powerful workflows possible. So Power Automate can connect to over 300 data connectors. It's a part of the Microsoft ecosystem, but you'll be able to take advantage of a huge array of different services and Microsoft partners. So these connections between services can be used as triggers and actions within the workflow. Some connectors do require a premium license, but as I said, licensing can be a little bit tricky with Power Automate, and Jimmy will talk a little bit more about licensing later. But Power Automate can connect anything from any Microsoft application to Twitter to a lot of different on-premise solutions as well. So some examples of Power Automate: document approvals, time off requests, expense approvals, new employee onboarding. That is something that we do at DMC, where we have workflows that go through each different onboarding task when a new employee joins our company. You can store Microsoft form submissions in SharePoint, post messages to Teams when a planner task is complete, or even add events to a calendar when tasks are added to Trello. So Trello is not a Microsoft application, and that's just an example of one of the awesome connectors that you can use. So taking a look at an example of a workflow here, this is just an extremely simple example. But in my SharePoint library here, my test library, I am storing some customer contracts. And so when I upload this contract and after it's done editing, I'm going to tell this contract to submit for approval by checking the box in this field right here. Once it submits for approval, the approver in the situation, whoever that might be, will either get an email that looks like this, where you can approve or reject the contract right in the email. And you can also just click the link to see, this is obviously a, for example purposes, a dummy contract, just has my name in it. But it's really powerful that you could just approve or reject directly in the email. Alternatively, you will also get the approvals in Teams. So approvals is a different app that you can add along your sidebar right here. So you can see when you press the ellipsis, the number, all the different applications show up. And so if you click on approvals, it's like this. You can see right here, this document approval for customer contracts, that's the new one that I just did, has been requested, and I could also approve or reject right here from Teams. You can add comments, you can, also, if you needed to, you can cancel the request or reassign it to someone else. You also get a notification in Teams saying someone has sent you an approval request. So I sent it to myself, but here it is right here again. So that is all I have on Power Automate. I'm going to hand it to Anjali to talk about Power Apps.
Great, thank you, Jamie. Go ahead and share my screen again. All right, guys, so Power Apps is also part of the Power Platform. But so what it is, it's actually a cloud-based, mobile-friendly tool to create digital forms. So you can actually capture data with these forms, or you can also view data with these forms as well. So it is a very simple tool. It's low code, has some scripted solutions in it. There's a lot of drag and drop functionality in it. And if you've ever typed in a formula in Excel, which I imagine almost everybody has, it has the Excel-like expression. So you can put in some, like, if this field is required, then make this field required type of thing. It is camera and GPS aware. So I have some clients that are using Power Apps to be able to do a site inspection. So by going in and taking a picture while in Power Apps, it'll know the GPS locations and be able to add a photo from that site inspection into your actual form itself, which is a nice feature. There are a whole bunch of pre-built templates out of the box that comes with Power Apps. So without ever doing any other configuration, you can go check it out, see what kind of pre-built templates are available for you, and just play with it, check it out. You can view it on mobile and your desktop as well. So what are some pros and cons of Power Apps? So it actually connects to multiple data sources, just like we've talked about with Mike and Jamie for Power BI and Power Automate. since it's part of the Power Platform, it does have those connectors built in as well. And it does have an updated user interface. So, if we were talking about SharePoint before in a SharePoint form, that's typically like pretty bland and up and down kind of form. So if you want to take your form to the next level, you can add things like logos, you can add different sections, you can kind of customize it to make it, your more branded or whatever the case may be. So it does have that customization capability in there. Because it is part of the Office 365 stack, out of the box, when Microsoft decides to make some updates, it actually goes ahead and updates these Power Apps too. So versus if you did some custom programming, if there was an update, it could very well maybe change the behavior. But with using Power Apps being out of the box, it does make it nice to be automatically updated. Just a few cons. So drag and drop doesn't always work. It's a really nice platform. Sometimes it doesn't stay where you think that you're actually dragging it to. And along those lines, some simple steps can be a little bit complicated. So, it just takes some knowledge on how to work with Power Apps. It's something that I definitely recommend you go out and try or contact us for, but there are also some limitations on what it can do. So if you're really trying to create some really custom behavior that, shows another form or shows a picture or does something that just Power Apps can't do, then you might have to go to a custom form instead. So there are kind of 3 levels to what you would do if you're creating a digital form using SharePoint out of the box. Power Apps is some really great tool, and then going to a custom one. So just to show you guys an example of what a Power App can look like, I'm going to bring up another example here. So this example is for a client that is in the quality department, and their quality department runs RMAs, return material authorization. So essentially when a new RMA comes in, it has to be touched by about 5 or 6 different departments before it actually can get shipped back to the customer. So in order to keep this process, moving smoothly, have visibility as to where our different RMAs are, and also be able to identify, well, what are the fields that this department has to enter versus this department, we decided to create a Power App solution. So using SharePoint as a front end, you are able to open up the new Power App form. Again, this is the digital form to say, all right, here's a new RMA. What's the number? What are some pieces of information about it? And then this is the information that the quality department might, the initiator might fill in. You can also add some attachments. So whether it's a picture or any other information that you have about it. Then it might get tracked using Power Automate or routed to the quality department, and the quality department fills information in. Then the inspection or engineering department fills things in, business management, customer service, planning, shipping, quality. You also have the ability to, if you were viewing this versus putting it as a new item, have different forms and actually have a number of different requirements in there that, if this person is looking at it, you can have it show in this format as well. So there's a lot of different capabilities that you have with these Power Automate forms. And then also not everything has to be put in at the same time. You can go back and edit it later as well. So it's a nice little tool to be able to create those digital forms. So continuing forward, we're going to talk briefly about a couple of other tools that are in your tool set that comes with Office 365 that you might not really be aware of. So the next one is OneDrive for Business. So OneDrive for Business is really the personal cloud storage that each user within your tenant has access to. So you do have the ability to share files with external parties from here. You do have a SharePoint library sync. So just similar to SharePoint, OneDrive works very, very similarly. One thing that's really important is that OneDrive is often used to share your company-wide documents, and I think this is a mistake that some organizations make. You really want to put your organization-wide documents in SharePoint, and OneDrive is really for personal cloud storage. So if you think about it, prior to being on Office 365, you might have stored some of your documents that other users in your company might have needed in your file share. And then if you had a document that really wasn't necessary to share, you might have just shared that on your desktop. Think of SharePoint as your file share and think of OneDrive as your desktop. So that's how you want to store things moving forward. The other key element to remember with OneDrive is that it does have a centralized IT administration. So that means it does belong to your organization. So if you put all of your important documents there and then a user were to leave, those documents eventually will have to get migrated out of that personal OneDrive into somewhere that is company-wide like SharePoint. Otherwise, those documents will get deleted. So OneDrive is an important tool. It's very useful, but you want to make sure you're using it the right way. One thing that's really cool is that both SharePoint and OneDrive content is available on mobile devices. So you don't only have to be in front of your PC, you can be remote, you can be, on customer sites, showing real estate, whatever the case may be, and be able to access all of this different content. A couple other quick tools that we're going to touch on is Microsoft Forms. So Microsoft Forms is a data collection tool, and it has the ability to collect anonymously from different users. It doesn't only have to work with internal people, it can be external as well, and it is very simple creation. So think of this similar to what you might see with like SurveyMonkey if you're sending out a survey. The difference between using Microsoft Form and using one of the other tools that we've talked about, like Power Apps or SharePoint to collect information, is that you have that ability to be anonymous and also do it externally. So here's an example on the right here with the inclusion and belonging. Obviously, we wanted to be that ability to be anonymous. People could give responses. And so that's the way that we collected that data using Microsoft Forms. So some quickly pros and cons, we've talked about these. It can be anonymous, it doesn't have to be. No login is required, and you can easily download those results to Excel. Some cons, it's not as robust as SurveyMonkey. It is a free tool, but there's only like 5 or 6 different options for how you're going to be collecting that data. The results of those surveys are stored natively to Forms. So while you can download it to Excel, if you want to do something more with the data, like create a Power Automate workflow with it, or have it routed to somebody, or have it show up in a Power BI, you do actually need to use Power Automate to take that data and put it somewhere else. So it's not quite as robust as what you might get from Power Apps or SharePoint, but it is a very simple tool. So it's part of your platform. You can definitely take advantage of it. Another tool that's part of your stack is Planner. So Planner is another project management tool, and it takes that Kanban approach to project management. So this is great for small team projects. It's not for something that's 200 tasks or greater with a lot of dependencies. It is quite simple to use, and it includes a visual task dashboard. So like you can see on the right, there are different cards for each of your tasks. You can drag and drop them and be able to assign to different users, put them in different buckets, mark them as complete, and then have some visualization of how are our tasks being allocated. Do we have a nice balance here? How far are we within the project? It is also integrated with Teams, so you can access these planners directly from your Teams user interface. So again, another free tool that you can take advantage of. Some pros, it is visual, it's free with your license, and it has that drag and drop capability. Some cons is that the importing capability is somewhat limited. So if you have a large task list that you have located in Excel or something like that, you're probably not going to be able to just seamlessly import it. Like we said, there's no dependencies or Gantt capability. So if you're trying to say, okay, this task, once this is completed, then this task can start, Planner is not great for that. It's not meant for huge, large task-based projects. And then template capability is pretty limited as well right now. So again, another nice free tool. Maybe it's great for like we're planning a company event. We need to have a bunch of tasks that we're assigning, maybe those smaller projects. So definitely a cool tool to check out. And my last one is going to be Microsoft Stream, also part of your Office 365 tenant. So this is a video hosting platform. You can host internal videos and recorded meetings, and then it also has that voice to text translation. So if you want to have like the transcript of what was said, it actually does that automatically for you. This is a great opportunity. Actually, we saw in the Q&A, internal training videos. If you don't want to put them on YouTube and have them publicly available, or even have to have your users search for them, Microsoft Stream is a great place to store them. In fact, if you record some of your internal meetings now, some of those will end up in Stream by default. So that's what Stream is about. If you need that ability to store internal meetings or videos, then you would utilize Stream for that. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Rick to talk about Teams.
Thanks, Anjali. Yeah, let me share my screen again. One sec. Okay, so much like many of the other Microsoft 365 platforms, Teams is one of those that can run on pretty much any device anywhere. Most of the applications within Microsoft 365 run in a browser. And some of them, like Teams, there's actually a desktop application. It can run in the browser, and there's also a mobile device application as well. Digging into a little bit, what does Teams do? Kind of probably the primary purpose, maybe not the primary, but one of the key purposes is persistent chat. So you can chat one-on-one with somebody on your team. You can do some internal and or external communication. So you can invite others to participate in Teams meetings or in the chats. Audio video conferencing, it includes, it is an add-on, but you can also have dial-in numbers associated with a particular meeting that you've scheduled. You could share screens. It also has a breakout room capability, which is very useful if you have a large meeting and you want to subdivide and have people work on something and then get back together and share the ideas you came up with in a small breakout room. Teams also has a full-fledged cloud phone system, so regular phone dialing. There's an auto attendant feature. There's all kinds of routing rules for phone calls that might be inbound. Collaboration, you can do document management, co-authoring within Teams. There's whiteboard features, calendar features, and really kind of putting it all together. I call it the application hub. It's a single pane of glass to access a bunch of different Microsoft 365 applications, as well as third-party applications. Kind of like Mike was saying and Jamie was saying earlier, there's over 300 different applications you can plug into Teams. It's pretty amazing. So some of the advantages, like I just said, single pane of glass. It's a pain in the neck to launch different applications. It's really nice when you can switch very quickly between different applications without losing the context of what you're working on. It's part of your Office Microsoft 365 license. It's integrated with your Outlook calendar, which is something you often want to reference throughout the day. Easily invite coworkers as well as third parties to collaborate with you. And I think my favorite part of it is it reduces my email. So I could very quickly respond to things and not just come back to like a stack of 500 emails when I get back from a meeting. Some other things to think about, some of the app features are, to access the full capabilities of some of the apps that are integrated, you may actually have to launch the full application, but the key features are usually included with the integrated components of those third-party apps. Dual monitors are not supported. So what that means is basically I can't have a video of people on one screen and then the screen share on another. What Teams does is it kind of puts them all together in one. So for some people that's great. For other people, they prefer to have them on separate screens. Not everybody has a setup where they have multiple monitors. You can only be active in one tenant. So for us, this is kind of a big deal because we work with a number of different clients, and so we may be parts of multiple tenants. So you can only be active in one tenant on the desktop, but you could open a browser session or also have your phone active while you're logged into different tenants. And a final thing, permissions don't use Active Directory groups. So this is a downside if you set up the permissions for a particular team and then new employee comes on board, you add them to the appropriate Active Directory group. That isn't necessarily going to get them added into your team. So that's something I think Microsoft is working on. All right, so I'm going to switch gears a bit and share a quick demo of some of the features I just talked about. All right. Oops. Okay. So here's the Teams application. Like I said, chat is probably the number one thing you'll probably use. I've got a number of conversations that I've been engaged with today. Activities. These could be different things that people just reacted to messages. I had a missed call from somebody. If somebody submitted a proposal for approval, that might have come in that way. Your teams themselves. So you can activate, show and hide different teams that you're collaborating in. I'm going to come back to this human resources example in a couple minutes. Calendar, this is a look at my busy day if you're interested, but it's really nice to be able to quickly reference that without having to go back to Outlook. I've got my call log, people I've talked with. I can very quickly, just with one click, go ahead and give them a call back. Files I've recently accessed, those are all quickly available to me here. And then there's more things. I can go ahead and access Power BI. I could add approvals like Jamie showed you earlier. I could have streams. So you can keep adding more and more. There's literally hundreds of apps you can integrate into here. They've got them categorized here so you can try to find what you're looking for a little bit more easily. So I'm going to go back here real quick and show you an example of an actual team. So these are posts within a team. Anybody can access those posts. I could start a new conversation. Hello. That gets posted. You can reply to specific things. When I'm in an, beyond just typing words, I can format my message. So almost like typing a Word doc here. I can add attachments, uploading from a computer, from my OneDrive, from other teams. I can include some emojis, search for something, happy, and you can go ahead and pick your favorite emoji for that. GIFs. So here, this is kind of nice. I want to say, thank you so much for something. I can come up with something cute. It's a little bit nicer than going ahead and just saying the words. You can kind of entertain somebody with your post that way. Additional features here. You can create your own kind of sticker here. You can do that, and I can change this to say, solved. Whatever the case may be. So that's again, it just kind of makes it a nice way to interact with other people. Anjali showed you stream a few minutes ago. So I could go ahead, and if there's a stream video I want to share with someone, I can go ahead and paste the link to it here. It'll find it, and then it'll go ahead and launch that for me in a browser. It'll bring up that stream. It's an open enrollment video. Couple other things here. Give praise to somebody. That's a lot like, I guess generic praise. Way to go, awesome. And I can add a little personalized note to that. Way to go. Anyway, and send that to somebody. Workflows. So I can actually do a kind of an ad hoc workflow. Like let's say I wanted approval for vacation or something like that. I could say, please approve vacation on, whatever, 10/31. Oh, that's a Sunday. How about 11/1? I could send it to, Anjali. Let's say, Anjali, could you please approve my vacation request? Any additional details, and I can send this request to her. She can go ahead and approve that right from within Teams. Coming back down. YouTube videos, you can how do I use Microsoft Teams? Well, I can just do a quick search for Microsoft Teams. It'll actually do a quick search within YouTube. I could pick a video. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to share with you, and I can post that. And then it goes on and on. There's more and more things you can embed. Power BI, I could search for a particular dashboard, and I could go ahead and, share that with somebody, open that, things like that. So really, really useful. Go ahead and post that stuff. So that's my post there. Files, you can, by default, every team includes a file, and this is actually a SharePoint storage location. So behind the scenes, even though it's being viewed in Teams, this is actually stored in SharePoint. I could put a SharePoint page up here. So for a particular department or something like that, I could actually have a SharePoint page brought up within my team. A wiki. Wikis are great for keeping meeting notes in. Interview questions. Let's say we're doing a brainstorm. I can very quickly add some new items here, edit in a grid, and just quickly brainstorm some new items with others on my team. More documents, so I could actually structure how we're saving documents. So for HR, if there were resumes submitted for a particular position, I can put those here. Maybe there's job descriptions out here that I can store. Or maybe I've got a dashboard. I want to keep track of some employee stats. I've embedded Power BI right inside of here. I don't have to go launch a whole nother thing and go search for it. I can very quickly see what I was looking for about employee statistics. So that's an overview of Teams. Hopefully that has given you some good ideas on how you might be able to use that. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Jimmy, and Jimmy's going to go ahead and tell you about Microsoft 365 licensing.
So hello, everyone. I am Jimmy Brady. I'm the account manager at DMC. I've been at DMC for about 6 years, and I handle all of the Microsoft licensing for our customers on the digital workplace solutions team. I'm going to briefly go over the most common plans for Microsoft licensing. This is definitely not an exhaustive list of Microsoft cloud-based licenses, so please feel free to reach out to me after this call if you have any questions on additional license offerings from Microsoft. So I want to start off with a quick clarification. Microsoft 365 was initially rolled out in 2017 as a way for customers to purchase a single license to bundle Office 365 with Windows 10 and some additional security tools. More recently, Microsoft has used that Microsoft 365 and Office 365 name somewhat interchangeably. So just keep that in mind as I quickly go over these offerings. Another thing to note is that these license bundles come in at two distinct price points. So I want to show you both the business bundles geared towards the SMB and commercial space, as well as the enterprise licenses. So here is the Microsoft bundles geared towards that SMB and commercial space. I'll start off with the web app bundles. The Microsoft 365 Business Basic. Now this will give you access to the web-based tools such as SharePoint, Teams, and Exchange Online, as well as web-based versions of those traditional desktop apps. This is going to be the lowest price bundle at $5 per user per month. Now right next to that, you'll see the Microsoft 365 Apps for Business. This bundle offers that traditional Office app bundle like you would get back in the 90s when buying a new PC. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. You will not get access to tools such as SharePoint, Teams, or Exchange Online, but you will get access to a OneDrive for personal cloud storage. Now at the bottom left, you will see Microsoft 365 Business Standard, and this is really the best of both worlds. And it has traditionally been the most popular bundle for companies in the SMB space. On the bottom right, you'll see the Microsoft 365 Business Premium Bundle. This is the newer bundle. It's kind of that original Microsoft 365 bundle that I mentioned earlier that adds Windows 10 and security applications to that business standard bundle of licenses. Microsoft sees this bundle as the best option for their business users and have been adding a ton of additional features without increasing the cost of this bundle. With more and more companies making remote work and hybrid work a permanent part of their business, this single bundle allows these businesses to simply manage their users' identities, data, and devices. One thing to note, the companies can only purchase 300 business licenses for their users. Any license count above 300 will need to be an enterprise bundle, which we are going to look at right now. So I won't take too much time to go over this slide because it really shows the same types of bundles as that previous slide. But these offerings and price points are for customers that have more than 300 users. Even though these licenses are geared towards that enterprise space, I do see a lot of small customers who purchase that Office 365 E3 license because of the additional email security and compliance features offered through those enterprise bundles. Now I want to quickly go over one last slide before we move over to the Q&A portion of the webinar. As I mentioned earlier, many companies are still working remotely, and frankly, many of these companies plan on having a more flexible working environment moving forward, which is great for users, but also makes it harder for IT departments to keep everyone safe. These Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security Bundles give companies a ton of different applications to keep their data, their users, and their devices safe and sound no matter where they're at. These EMS bundles have some additional security applications that are not included with that Microsoft 365 Business Premium and the Microsoft 365 E3 bundle. So depending on your specific use case, there may be a better fit for your environment than those Microsoft 365 bundles I just mentioned. Hopefully this breakdown makes purchasing Microsoft cloud-based licenses a little clearer. That's really all I have on the licensing side. So let's go ahead and open the floor for some Q&A to discuss anything we've covered in that last 45 minutes. Thanks.
I'll go ahead and answer Michael's question that was in the question and answer. I accidentally clicked on answer live instead of type and answer, so I apologize for that. So your Michael's question was, for the RMA example, can it generate the next RMA number automatically? And the answer is yes. So depending on the complexity of how you want to generate an RMA number, if you wanted to do it based on some, formatting syntax that has, the year or the number or some other piece of information in it, you could do something like that. You could also make it just super simple and sequentially increase the the number of the RMA. So either of those are possible, and you would probably accomplish that by using Power Automate in addition to Power Apps and SharePoint. So they all kind of work together to come up with that functionality. So I just wanted to answer that question. And then I don't see any others in the Q&A. So, but if you guys would like to have any questions, please go ahead and put them in.
I also added a survey link to the chat. If you have a moment to fill it out, we would appreciate your feedback. Is there anything anyone was hoping we would address today that we didn't get to? Let us know in the Q&A.
Okay, I guess that's probably it. Yeah, please, if you do have questions or want to contact us, feel free to contact Jessica directly. I think she has shared her contact info, and I'll also place mine in the chat as well if you have questions for me. But anyway, thank you all for participating today. Really appreciate it.
And as I posted in the Q&A, we will be sharing this recording on our website soon. So if you'd like to reference it back or share it with anyone else, we will have that live on our website. So thank you all for attending.